Hey, welcome to another edition of Strategic Moves with Lou. I'm Mike Hendren, a licensed real estate agent here in Wichita Falls, Texas with Strategic Realty. And with me is Lou Italis, the owner-broker of Strategic Realty in Wichita Falls, Texas. Also has an office in Pilot Point, Texas as well. So
we've got agents in El Paso now.
Really?
Yeah.
El Paso?
Mm-hmm.
How'd you pull that one off?
Well, actually, it's one of my agents from here that moved over there. So.
Ah, okay.
Or
all right.
Has family over there, so they're also.
I got you. Okay. Well.
They're doing it in both ends.
Okay. All right. El Paso's pretty hot market.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. She's got some big ones.
I know. We talk about the prices here, and then you go to a place like El Paso, or you go to San Antonio, or you go to Dallas, or you go to Austin, and it's like, ooh, we're still really cheap up here.
I know. My house here is probably worth about $450 there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of how mine is. It's probably $450, $500.
Maybe even more, because right now my house here is probably worth about $300.
Yeah,
I only paid like $100.
Yeah. It's funny because it hasn't been that long ago.
I know, it was only like 2013, so I bought it in 2013 for $125.
So 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
See, I bought mine in 20. What is this? I bought mine in 2019 at $155, $160
over in Burke.
Yeah.
Jeez, and now it's probably worth at least $300.
It would bring at least $240, $250
at the very least.
At the very least, you know. And if I did a few minor improvements to it, probably three and a quarter. Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy because you're so tempted to go, let's capitalize on that. Let's
cash out.
Let's make it a little bit of money, but you really have to stop and think about it. If I sell my house and make those proceeds, where am I going to go?
Right.
Because everything else is expensive. I mean, I can't turn around and sell my house for $300,000 and turn around and buy something for $125,000.
No. Well, not
unless
anything.
I want a shack.
I mean, not unless you want to do a lot of work to it.
Yeah, a little shanty in the woods or something, you know.
I'll tell you, I'm going to address something here, totally non-real estate related, but still price related. So I've been looking around for a truck.
Cars. Oh my gosh, that's the same kind of aspect. I've thought about the same thing. I could trade mine in and get $20,000, but then.
Yeah. But you'll spend $50,000 on the next one. So I'm looking around at these trucks.
I have a paid-off car right now.
Okay, so real estate is something that usually appreciates in value. Over time, it's usually going to gain value.
In the long term.
Mm-hmm. However, cars and trucks are not one of those things. Now, you get into some classics like a 65 split window Corvette or a 48 GMC pickup or something that's a real collectible. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Anything over 20 years old that people liked. I'm
seeing 25-year-old trucks with 300,000 miles on them that they want $15,000 for it.
What the?
2 years ago, you would have drugged that thing across the scales at the junkyard and sold it for a penny a pound. And now you want $15,000, and I'm not exaggerating. I saw one just the other night on Facebook, in the Facebook Marketplace. And they wanted $11,000 for a 14 or 15-year-old truck with over 250,000 miles on it. No. I'm not going to overpay for something like that.
That just makes me think that my son's truck that he had.
Yeah.
I bought him a truck back in the day when he was 16 years old for $1,500.
Oh yeah.
And he had it for at least 10 years because he's pretty good at, maintaining his vehicles, and it was already old by then, and it was already rusted by then, and it needed a paint job. And, but he got 10 years out of it. And he sold it. He couldn't get rid of it for $800, but I bet you anything, if he kept that monstrosity,
get $3,000 out of it,
he
$4,000
could easily get,
So my first ever vehicle was like $200. And I worked over a summer for it, and the floorboard was so rotted you could see the highway going by under your feet when you're driving.
So you were a Flintstone.
Oh yeah, just about. I mean, if I'd have stomped my foot down, I would have been. I mean, it was bad, you know. But that's what you could get. That's $200, you know. I mean, I put new spark plugs and new plug wires and new points in it. And if you're under 40, you don't know what the hell points are. And new points, and it ran. It started, and we're off and running, you know. And so now
Every once in a while, you'd have to pop the hood and bang on the distributor,
or pour some more oil in it, you know. Yeah. It burned. Oh, it ate that oil, you know.
Yeah.
But back then, oil was $1.05 a quart, you know. Now it's $9 a quart. But you know, really, truly, and that's one of the things we want to talk about today is all of these things are happening in the economy. What kind of an impact is it having on real estate?
I'm not seeing the impact.
I don't think we're seeing a negative impact, as in it's putting
not slowing down.
Yeah, it's not slowing anybody down. People are still buying, aren't they?
They're still buying.
If they can just find something to buy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where the kicker comes in, isn't it?
They can't find something to buy, and they can't find anything to lease either. I mean, you're struggling with that right now, trying to find people to, you know, rental properties.
I got two people looking for rental properties, and of course they've got a budget that they need to live within, and it's not just finding a property; it's finding a property within that budget.
Well, like I told you before, though, I've got that one on Keeler.
Yeah.
You need to show that one. $950 is what we were leasing it for. And it's central heat and air, 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
Yeah, they're just going to have to, you know, they're going to have to figure out a way to.
They had posted
increase
on Facebook
their budget
that they would go 1,000.
Yeah, well, then
you need to have that conversation.
Then we need to have that conversation today. But I just, you know, I think we're at a point where it feels like things ought to be leveling off, but I don't know that they are. I just don't. I mean, as far as prices, you know, I don't think
prices are going anywhere either.
I don't think they're going to drop significantly. And even with there's a threat of, you know, interest rate hikes. The Fed is looking at an interest rate hike, and they talked about a 1% potentially. This isn't written. None of this stuff is ever written in stone. It's always in flux all the time. But they were talking about a potential for a 1% increase in the interest rate between now and the June or July. I think it's a June meeting they have.
That's a pretty significant increase.
Well, normally they'll step it up like a quarter point at a time.
Yeah, so it jumps within 3 to 6 months, 1%.
That's a lot.
That's gonna make a pretty good dent on people's budgets, because now what's going to happen is they can afford less.
Well, so what they're looking at, I think, is they're looking at how do we tap the brakes on inflation? How do we tap the brakes on this thing? Because the cost, look at the consumer price indexes, you look at the manufacturing indexes, everything's up across the board. I mean,
going up.
Everything.
It has to. I mean, it's all reactionary. It is. You know.
Yeah, but you start to look at it and go, well, how much of this is just hot air and how much of this is real? You know. So how does it impact us as real estate agents and brokers, and how does it affect the sellers? How does it affect the buyers? Well, you know, if you're a buyer, obviously, if interest rates go up, your buying power is diminished a little bit.
Well, yeah, your budget's going to have to take a little bit of a hit. You're not going to be able to find, you're not going to be able to afford the granite countertop house that you really, really loved anymore. You're going to probably have to get something that needs a little bit of work.
You may not be able to buy the $300,000 house. You may have to go find the $200,000 house.
Yeah, because that 1% interest rate hike can make a huge difference on your mortgage payment, because for the first 5 to 10 years, that's all you're paying is mortgage.
Yeah, but the thing of it is,
interest.
Yeah, interest. But the thing of it is, though, is like I said, none of this stuff's written in stone, so we don't really know what they're going to do. It's really kind of a wait and see game.
Well, the saving grace for a lot of people, and I know that people don't really think about this too much, is, so for instance, you sell your house. If I were to sell my house, let's say $300,000, maybe that's a pipe dream, but whatever. I sell my house for $300,000. Now I've got some disposable cash. Well, now I can go and buy a $300,000 house and put $150,000 down. So therefore, now I'm only buying I'm only having to mortgage $150,000. So my mortgage, my payment will more or less stay the same. Because originally when I bought the house, it was $125,000.
Right.
So if I keep my mortgage, the whole number low, then that's where you can gain the system. I don't know if that's the right terminology, but you can save yourself that headache. Now, a lot of people that are selling their homes for $150,000 over what they paid for it, and they got $150,000 in the bank, are using a lot of that money to pay down their debts, and that's a good thing too. But just keep in mind, if with the way the market is going, you really need to put a healthy down payment down on the next purchase.
And that's that's a big plus too. If you can walk into a new house and you've got, let's say you buy the $300,000 house and you've got $150,000 in cash to put into it, 50% down payment. There are banks that will fall all over themselves to loan you money.
Yeah, well,
they'll love
sometimes
you.
Sometimes not, but that you'll be able to afford a better interest rate.
Sure,
because maybe you can put some of that towards points.
Yeah.
And you're not going to have to pay private mortgage insurance. So I mean, there's a lot of advantages to taking the proceeds that you make on one house and just dumping it into the other. And I mean, that's the way that you stabilize the amount of money that is coming out of your wallet every month. Because I mean, just doing my math with my house, my mortgage payment is only going to increase $25,000 from when I originally purchased my house. $25,000 is only going to make a difference of like $7 for every 25 for every $7 for every 1,000 that I borrow. So 7 times 25 is what, another $150.
You're asking me to math right now.
Yeah. It's like another on my mortgage.
I get the calculator. Yeah, I get the calculator out.
Exactly. 25 times 7, 175.
Yeah.
So that was close.
Yeah, but I don't know. What do you think? Honestly, I mean, with the economy, just looking at where we've been, let's look, because you have to kind of look at the history. So you look at where we've been in the last 2 years, okay, and look at where do you think we're headed? You personally, as a broker, where do you think we're headed with this in the next 6 months?
Well, I think the next 6 months are going to be pretty tough. I mean, look at the state of the world right now. Yeah. It's not just the real estate market. I think, I mean, I've had a lot of sleepless nights in the last week and a half, and the whole issue with Ukraine right now is making everybody super terrified. I mean,
the markets get spooked easily.
Yeah, and if I'm scared as a broker, I'm sure that there's a lot of people in the world that are scared to move. They're scared to displace themselves, to lose their jobs, I mean, there's all kinds of things that are, as much as we would love to imagine the world is going to be in peace in 5 days, I just don't see that happening.
No.
And I mean, I'm torn because, yes, we don't want to be a part of the conflict. Obviously, we don't want to be at war.
No.
I mean, that would be the ultimate just horrible turn of events here. But at the same time, all it takes for evil to prevail is for a good man to do nothing.
True.
So, I mean, we tout ourselves as the liberators of countries and the bastions of freedom.
We're the good guys.
Yeah. So if we sit back and continue doing nothing, how is the world going to ever take us seriously on any? And eventually, I feel like we are going to get pulled into this anyway. If it continues,
it depends on how far it goes.
Yeah, I mean, if something drastic doesn't happen and Putin obviously turns his tanks around and go back home, if that doesn't happen, it feels like there is going to be an escalation. And then what? Then we're the last ones to respond.
Well,
I don't know. I digress on that.
I think in terms of how it affects the world economy. It's like every other conflict. The markets do tend to get a little spooked
Yeah.
when things start
And
happening.
if that starts to happen,
And
that yeah,
well, you take for example.
Yeah.
Okay, we saw a huge, Wall Street took big losses in the first 24 hours after that invasion.
and they started to bump up,
And
now
it started-
they're starting to,
Starts to bounce back up again. All of this stuff runs in cycles anyway, and we
Mhm.
know that it's cyclical. It always has been, and it's the same thing here, except that with a conflict like this, I think you have to ask yourself what's best for my situation right now, where I am in the world, where I am. What's the best thing for me to do? You can't sit back and just worry yourself sick about the world situation. At some point, we have to look at what's best for us here at home, for our part of the world, and our situation, our pocketbook, our investments. A home.
how do you make
For-
that
it's-
assessment though? That's the conundrum for me.
Yeah.
And personally, for me, it's like, do we sit back and do nothing, or and expect that the world is going to kind of right itself?
Well, I don't mean in
Or-
terms of the broader picture of peace and stability, or no peace
yeah,
and no stability.
I know what you're
But-
saying as far as like, well, do we continue selling real estate? I mean, do we freeze up and just close our doors and wait for the nuclear world to happen?
and I don't think you can do
That's
that.
not gonna. That's
You
not
can't do
realistic.
that.
We have to carry on.
Yeah.
The show must go on.
The show has to go.
Um,
You have to realize that you as an individual, the odds that you yourself are going to be personally and directly impacted by this conflict are really fairly slim. That you,
My pocketbook is being affected.
well,
but-
your finances, yes, because of how
the
you're
stock
invested in the
market,
stock
yeah,
market.
I've got
and
a lot of investments in the stock market,
right.
so that's taking its
Right.
its toll on my face.
Yeah.
Picking at myself every once in a while, but it's like, oh my god! So I gotta like my phone right now is at 9%.
She was
because I've been
planning to
on the
retire
phone.
to a private island
know,
in 6
gonna-
weeks.
I was gonna be going to Costa Rica and just hanging out and having my own little villa and all my little minions.
Y'all handle this real estate stuff. I'm going. I'm out of here. I'm gone. I won't. I'll see you never again. Bye.
Yeah.
But
Do we travel? There's so many questions that
right.
everybody's
What do you
asking right now.
yeah.
What do you do? And I'm right there with you, Mike. The show goes on. The
Yeah.
world has to continue on. We have to continue with our daily jobs, our daily routines.
We do.
And we have to be prepared for whatever comes next.
Yeah.
We always have to be prepared for that. Now, if we're going to talk about the market and how this is affecting the market, I really don't see that it's affecting our market right this second. It's more affecting our brains than it is the market.
The phones are still ringing.
Yeah.
People are still looking. We still don't have enough listings available for all the buyers. We still have
Plenty of work out there for you.
It's there.
Some small news that we have. We are ramping up our construction.
Okay.
So we do have jobs available too. So, if there's anybody out there that is good with construction, good with framing, contracting, any kind of
Now, would these be the
construction
builds
type
on
of
Northwest
work,
that you're talking about?
Yes,
With that
the
area?
ones on
Okay.
Northwest. We've got
Okay.
6 going up right now, all at one time. So we are opening our doors for employees. So if you decide that you want to come and have a conversation with us and see what we have available,
Yeah.
our doors are open. So
For those of you in Wichita Falls, this is a major development for the northwest side of Wichita Falls, Texas.
we're talking eventually having about 200 homes in that area.
That is so significant, I can't even hardly put it into words. Because I grew up in that part of Wichita Falls, and I know that part of Wichita Falls very well. And it's a part of the city that has been viewed as neglected in terms of development for a long time. So to have these $185,000+ homes going up in that area are this is major. This is a major development.
We did have to go up on the price a little bit because lumber just went up another $10,000. So we had to go up. We were trying to meet the prices as we're trying not to inflate a lot of the prices, but our lumber cost just went up $10,000 per house, so
Well,
we had to increase it to $195.
Well, I noticed. Okay, so we had, for example, 7/16 OSB. That's the sheathing that's used on almost all houses now, new construction and residential construction. And it was so pre-pandemic. It was selling for $8, $9 a sheet all day long, and sometimes even a little bit less than that. Sometimes $7.50, $7.75, depending on kind of quantities you were buying. And then, because you usually do get a price break with larger quantities, typically.
Yeah,
usually.
the more you buy, the more you save.
Yeah,
but
like eggs. The more you buy, the cheaper they get. Yeah. And so the price went up to $50+ per sheet last year for, I don't know what, 3 or 4 months it was there, something like that, at $50 a sheet.
Yep.
It dropped to $26 a sheet. I noticed at Home Depot, Lowe's, Builders Supply Co., somewhere around $25 to $28 a sheet. 26, I think, was about the average for a while. I walk into one of the box stores the other day, $47 a sheet.
I'm telling you, it's gone back up.
Bam, just like that. You know,
all in all, we're spending. I mean, already we were spending, I think, $22,000 for lumber for framing for a 1,200 square foot house, and now we're spending $32,000.
So where are we starting the prices
freaking
now
nuts.
on these new builds?
$195.
$195.
For a 1,260 square foot open floor plan, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1-car garage.
And you know, when we're looking at, someone calls us up and says, "Hey, I want to sell my house." That's one of the things that we look at too. Is it's you know, you look at comps in the area. You try to, you know, about a 1 mile radius or so around there. You know, what are they selling for? What have things sold for in the last 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever? You look at that. But then also, it's what would it cost me to build this? You know, how much money would you have to spend to build that house today? And
we're definitely not making gobs of money doing these builds.
No.
We're trying to keep them as affordable as possible.
The profit margins are getting thinner and thinner.
Yeah.
So you make it up by hopefully building more of them.
I think that the majority of my reasoning behind it is I'm providing, you know, adequate housing for people that are in that market, that are in that, because I mean, we have more people in Wichita Falls that can afford a $200,000 home than people that can afford a $350,000 home.
Right.
So it just makes sense to build another, for lack of a better neighborhood, another Bonnie Homes. You know, where it's affordable homes, it's families that are living there, or retired people on fixed incomes and stuff like that. So that's basically what we're trying to do, is give them an alternative, because I mean, they can buy a Bonnie Homes home that's 60 years old and needs a lot of updates, and they're going to pay, you know, 80, 90, maybe even $135,000 with inflation right now.
Right.
Or they can buy, and maybe it's a little bit bigger than the ones that we're building, but or they can buy a brand new home that doesn't have any maintenance or are going to have any issues for a while, because it's a brand new home and it's updated and it's got all the bells and whistles that everybody really likes right now. We're doing them with granite countertop because we've found a supplier that's giving us a really good price on it.
Yeah.
So we're upgrading from the Corian style countertops, and we've got pretty good cabinet makers that are doing custom built cabinets, and you know, I mean, so we're trying to get as much for our buck as we can.
In terms of the amenities that go into these new houses, like things like amenities, probably not the right word, but the mechanical stuff, like
the fixtures.
Well, let's say the fixtures, like, you know, the HVAC systems. Those are more efficient today than they've ever been.
Yes, and the company that the company that does our AC installations is North Texas Air, I think is what it's called. And they have them. They come in with the Azim systems, and they're really efficient. They're economical, but meanwhile they're also less. They're all more power saving.
Yeah.
What's energy savers?
Yeah, and that's the big thing now, is people want, and as a rule, you know, generally the higher the SEER rating, the more efficiency you get of it. But there's limits to that too. But these things it's everything that goes into these houses now is just engineered better. than it was 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Yeah, and I mean, you can. I'm all for taking a distressed home and making it beautiful again.
Sure.
I love that. I loved flipping, and I still do love flipping. I can walk into a house and see the potential, see
Right.
the possibilities, and I'm inspired by that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't disagree with doing that either, but a lot of people don't have the disposable income to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And so or the resources to know where to get inexpensive or good labor, but not something that's going to break your bank. And so it can get costly, and people don't always complete the work, so then you wind up living in a home for years that's not updated.
Yeah.
And I've done that myself too. I mean, even my house, I bought it a long time ago, and I always said that I was going to do a lot of things to it, and I just haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah.
I've been a little busy, but now I'm slowly but surely starting to. Ever since COVID, I'm starting to do a few things to it, update my bathrooms, and I'm getting a new kitchen, which is going to be fantastic.
Well, some of those things have been a long time coming.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
I've been there for almost 12 years now. So.
But we haven't seen a big hit in the market. Things are still moving at I think probably a slightly slower pace maybe than they were a year ago, but not that it's so
and it
noticeable.
doesn't have it doesn't have anything to do with supply. I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with demand.
Right.
It has more to do with supply. We're
Yeah.
still supply poor right
Yeah.
now. And
yeah. So if you're thinking about selling your home, this again, I sound like a broken record here. It's probably the best time you've ever had to do it.
And like I suggested, the strategy of taking the proceeds that you make on the sale of your home and putting it down on a house that you are upgrading to is the best strategy. And that's the best way to keep your budget similar to where you are now.
Exactly.
Versus getting a loan and only putting 3.5% down, and then now you have a mortgage that's almost twice what you're used to paying. That's not the kind of living that you want to do.
No.
So, I mean, if you're in a position, or if you think that you're going to be able to get a really healthy chunk of proceeds out of your home, or if you're going to be getting all of it, buy it in cash. I mean, it right now is the time, and they are out there. You just need to get an in. So call a real estate agent.
That's right.
And they'll be able to talk to you. You can call Mike at
940-232-3876.
Or you can call us at our office at 940-689-7900. And all of our agents take phone duty, so you'll get a real estate agent on the phone right off the bat,
That's
not
right.
an answering service or, a secretary. So you can actually get some valid, and accurate information about what it's going to cost to sell your home,
Right.
what we recommend as far as repairs, and how much we can sell your home for.
Right. That's where the real estate professional comes in. It's going to save you a lot of time and a lot of work working with one of us. That's not just us trying to sell ourselves. I mean, that's being honest. What is your time worth? Because it is a time-consuming process. It's a labor-intensive process sometimes.
And it's not. And I mean, I get all these people all the time that say, "Oh, well, I've sold 3 houses before. I know what I'm doing." It doesn't have anything to do with whether or not you know what you're doing. It has to do with we have an inside track.
That's right.
We know what your house is going to sell for. I don't know how many times I've seen for sale by owners on the market, and they're leaving money on the table.
They sure are.
We are not in a position to do that anymore in this market. And so we want you to we want to make sure that you're getting the most for your money.
That's right.
The most for your house.
So again, reach out to us. It's strategicrealty.net. That's the website. You can call me, 940-232-3876. I'm Mike Hendren, and you can reach the office at
940-689-7900.
Easy to do, and we will be glad to help you. Until next time, guys, take care. Please like our Facebook page. You can find us on Spotify, Anchor FM, Apple Podcast, all over. We're all over the place.
Yep.
And, of course, you can listen every Saturday at 10 a.m. on News Talk, 1290 AM and 96.3 FM as well. Until next time, take care. We will see you down the road.
Subscribe, like, and share.